Welcome back to the show. James, I have a question for you right off the hop here. A
Whoa.
lot of coverage around the Islanders this week. They're on TNT tonight as we record this. Something we don't normally do, but we're making an exception because life. And they're on ESPN Plus last night, and a lot of the coverage is discussing how the Islanders are no longer boring. And I thought that was an interesting comment, but I think for Islander fans, um, I don't know. Would you rather go back to the boring, or is the roller coaster night after night, yet you really don't know where this team is going to go? It's fun when they're winning. They play good games, but it's a lot of heartbreak. It's a lot of going back and forth. Um, they seem to be in the same spot. They're third in the Metro as we record this. Um, what would you rather, or does it matter? Just make the playoffs and figure it out from there.
Um, I mean, look, the way that they've been playing lately, I mean, you can't complain. They're winning more often than they're not, and it's not like they're winning these games that are like, you know, questionable. I feel like they've been kind of dominating their games lately. So I don't necessarily hate the way they're playing, and I think I'd prefer this because it is more fun. Now, does it become unbearable when they're just completely breaking down? Yeah, and you hate to see that, and that's gonna happen at times. It's funny, like I was talking to Lindy Ruff yesterday about Jack Hughes and how his game is right now, and he said, look, when you play a certain style that is going to be more offensive, you sacrifice a little bit of defense, you take a little bit more risk and stuff like that. So look, they're scoring more goals. Like I think we said this last week, they're averaging like 4 goals a game right now, which is kind of crazy for this team. Um, and it's exciting. So it's definitely in terms of entertainment, this is preferable. But if you're asking for what the better recipe is to win games, I don't know. It's like a gray. It's a gray area. It's a fine line between
You want in the
which
middle.
style. Yeah, you want somewhere in the middle, and um, you'd like to think that this team has that instilled in them from the years of Trotskisms, but I mean, look, it's working right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think we've seen, really since the weight era, which seems like eons ago at this point, where we've seen quite this much goal scoring, mixed with the lack of defense, and it's it's kind of crazy how reminiscent it is of that. But I asked that question because I was writing notes today, and all I could think of to start the show was what kind of roller coaster this season has been, and
Yeah,
I
that's a good point.
can't believe there are 50 games left, or around 50 games. Like, this has been an exhausting season to be an Islander fan, because each game is a journey. It has been an absolute adventure every single game. Lately, it's been good. They're collecting points. They're rarely losing in regulation. And say what you will about that, and whether or not they're a contender. And I definitely want to talk about that later. But to me, it doesn't matter. Just collect the points. Um, I'd rather you find some consistency eventually. They every day has been, the last 4 games since we last chatted. It's it's been a different game. The last 4 games, not including tonight, it has just been a different game. So they have a win against the Ducks, a little bit of a comeback. Power plays buzzing. That's been really sustaining them throughout this season, which is kind of crazy to talk about. A comeback win against the Ducks, more or less, and then they kind of hold it down there at the end. Um, they they play against the Bruins, an emotional loss, right? They're back and forth. It's a good team. Boston's got a couple players, but the Islanders are in it. Um, they're controlling play for parts of it. It's not as a complete game as you want, but against a good team, you'll take it. And they lose that game, and then you could almost feel they were going to lose that game in Montreal. Huge letdown game. They come back in the third period after being down 4-0, I believe. They score 3 goals. Um, Good to see the fight, but against a team like the Habs, I think you got to have that one, and then some real redemption against the Oilers, and they held the lead. They were down for a little bit. They get it back, and um, the same culprits scoring goals for the Islanders, and but every game is different. It's wild. What did you see overall over the last week? Unless I already explained it all, but it's just to me, it's just a roller coaster. You never it's a mixed bag every single night.
Well, I think you said that pretty well. It is a mixed bag. Like they're getting points. Like they're banking a ton of points here. There's no doubting that, right? Was it one, two, three, four overtime games this month, and they went to three overtimes and a shootout. I mean, the thing is, you know, you look at the shootout loss to Boston. Okay, it's Boston, right? Pasternak just, I don't know, muscles the puck by
What the hell
Sorokin.
was
That
that?
that was
Well,
crazy. I don't know.
the slingshot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it just so easily to, I don't know, very very superhero like to me. It was bewildering. But then the second leg of a back to back, you go to Montreal, who, by the way, is like playing really well. Like they're creeping into playoff position. So it wasn't like, oh, this is a an easy 2 points. They kept it close. It was only a 2 goal game. So none of these
Well, it's
games
an
we're
empty
looking at
netter, but
here.
you shouldn't be down that much against the Habs to begin with. I think
Well,
regardless of
the
the
thing is,
travel and this and that, like back-to-back games this season haven't been great. I don't know. I think you gotta at a certain point you have to step up. But
I agree, but
the
they're
way they
they're
play
playing
lately has been hectic. I think it's hard for them to do that on a regular basis. It's hard to play
Caulfield.
the way that they're playing.
Caulfield scoring goals. He's playing well. Josh Anderson had a really good game that game. I think who was in net for them that night? It was Montembeault, and then he's been playing well this season too. I don't hate the Habs. I think that they're actually a little bit better than they get credit for. They're just young. So I didn't hate that loss either. The way I see it is like they're beating the good. Look, they beat LA, they beat Toronto, they beat Florida. Then they should have beat, and they did. They handed uh uh a big L to Columbus. They beat a scrappy team in the Ducks that can score, right? They just can't really play defense that well. They beat that team. Then they're like, oh, the Oilers are in town. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Who cares? 1 goal. And did either of them get on the board in that game?
Draisaitl
Draisaitl. He
scored the
he scored
goal,
the goal, right?
and
So
and it
keeping
was honestly, I think it was Bortuzzo on a he just played that very.
potentially,
He was very deep and it gave him a lot of room, but
right.
that's probably
So
not the matchup you want.
looking at the fact that they kept Connor McDavid off the board, who is looking like himself again, and you know catapulting himself up the leaderboards in points. Dude, they're playing really well, and so this is a completely different conversation than what we had a couple weeks ago. We were we literally ended the show by saying like, hopefully, we have something positive to talk about when we come on here next time. And now, I mean, look, is this sustainable? I don't. It's so hard for me to say it's not, but it's also very difficult for me to say it is, because we've seen what this team can do. We've seen this team just dominate when they weren't supposed to in Barry Trotz's first year. Then we've seen this team miss the playoffs after back to back, post Eastern Conference championship runs. It just the pendulum has swung so drastically with this team, right? Last year with Lane Lambert, it was like, maybe you could start to see what he's trying to do, but is it going to work? I'm not really sure. The start of this season, Sorokin stinks, quite frankly. They're buoyed by the excellent play of Sorokin and a power play that was actually clicking. Like, talk about Twilight Zone Islanders, right? And now it's just coming all together, and it's all kind of working. With, mind you, Pellick is out, Pollock is out, Simone Holmstrom scoring 5 shorthanded goals. His shorthanded goals total is matching Alex Ovechkin's goal total. What's going on? I don't I don't really know exactly how to put it into words, but something kind of wild is happening here, and I don't know if it's sustainable or not. Just because I'm just left confused at this point. Like maybe a lot of this has to do with Bo Horvat and how well he's playing. Maybe a lot of this has to do with how well he's meshing with Matthew Barzell, who's also playing way more confident, shooting the puck more. And like I said last week, every single shift that he has is with authority. It wasn't always that way. You used to love saying, puck the puck was a hand grenade on the end of a stick. Saw a little bit of that every now and then. I don't see that anymore. It's
Well,
just
he's just
confidence and
playing.
calm. It's
The
poise.
the puck. It's a lot of poise, but it's not overdoing it, and it's towards the net. I think what I've said for the longest time is that he needed a little bit of north south in his game. It was a lot of dipsy doodle and extra stuff, and it was really just to allow the players on his line to get set up. And now he doesn't need to do that as much. Everyone knows where they're going to go. He's got great chemistry with a player that can keep up with his IQ in Horvat. 31 points in 30 games. And if he gets a point tonight, it keeps on going a little bit better than a point per game. I think my question, and I alluded to it a few minutes ago, is are they a contender? Given what we know, I don't know how much I buy into we've seen what they've done before because this is a very different structured team now. A lot of the players are different. For now, you're without your some key defensemen. Um, I I want your thoughts on, if the season just plays out like this and the Islanders are in that, let's call it the third spot in the Metro. At this point, I don't see it being that crazy. Although the Metro is super tight. Every night, it seemed like the Devils lost to the Flyers in OT or a shootout the other night, and I was like, great, 3 points on the board. It just like the Metro just keeps the Islanders are doing what the rest of the division is doing, and it's just collecting points any way they can. The difference between second and sixth is 4 points, and the Islanders' games in hand have kind of vanished, and they've collected points along the way, but so has everybody else. Given what we know now, and there's 49, 50 games left, whatever the math is. I'm not going to math. There's a lot of games left. Given what we know now, do you believe that they're a contender? That if at this point they're third in the Metro, it's a little bit more than make it to the playoffs and see what happens. Can they actually make some noise?
I think if that's gonna happen, like, let's say they sustain this play, if that's gonna happen, I don't know if I'm ready to say, and I don't think I am. I'm not worried about Sorokin. He just needs to be Sorokin. And lately it's been better. I just don't know if it's completely there yet. Um, and look, Varlamov's playing great. The thing is, though, he's playing great in a lesser, sample size than what Sorokin's playing in. So that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna, end up saying like, all right, fine, we'll ride, Varlamov. Well, you didn't ask him to do as much as he was doing, in as many games, as Sorokin's playing. So you have to, like wonder, is it gonna work if he has a bigger load on him? So look, this team is at this point, it's almost Christmas. They're 3rd in the division, right? Is that that's currently where they're
They're
at? Yeah.
they're right behind the Flyers
Yeah, neck
and
and
right
neck with
ahead
the
of Carolina.
Flyers. So it's hard to sit here and say they're not a contender at this point. Like, there's plenty of season left, like you said.
Well, I don't mean make the playoffs. I mean when they get in. Like, do you see them if the season ended today, to use that cliche?
Yeah.
I
Well,
personally
that's the other
think they
thing.
can beat the Flyers. I'm not afraid of that at all. I don't care who's behind the
Right.
bench or what the Flyers are doing. I think everyone steps up in a different way. Um, I'm not afraid of the Flyers if that's how it shakes out. Even this season, I'm a little less afraid of the Hurricanes because they're a different team.
Right.
They're without a lot of different players. They have Svechnikov back, but they don't have the
Goaltending
goaltending. They're
stinks.
they're they're figuring that out. Unless they make a trade, I'm not necessarily afraid of Carolina in the
No,
first round.
no,
If they
that's the
jump,
thing
let's say
too,
they
right?
jump ahead of the Flyers and they fall off or whatever. Um, there really aren't too many teams like even the Capitals, like I think the Islanders are deeper. Um, I think they have more. If I don't, unless they drop to a wild card, frankly, I'm not worried about them making it past the first round. I don't know that that makes them a contender, but I think they can make it past the first round, just given what we know. Power plays are huge,
Yeah.
and they'll tighten up defensively. You have to believe they'll tighten up defensively. Um, they're scrappy right now, and it's different. And I'm trying to get used to it as I watch it. But like I said, it's been exhausting. I can't believe I have to watch another 50 games of this just because it's just very taxing as a fan. You just don't know what you're going to get night in and
Yeah.
night out.
The other thing too is, when you think about this team right now, like they're probably the best team. We've said this before. They're probably the best team on paper that we've seen in a while. And that's excluding, the waiver pickup of Riley and Bortuzzo and pretending that Pellick and Pullock are back. And quite frankly, Riley's playing pretty great
He
in
may have
in
stolen a spot from Aho when and
oh,
Bortuzzo may
absolutely.
be this, the seventh or waived or whatever.
You're right.
Riley may have stolen
I
Aho's
agree with
spot,
that.
frankly.
So like those guys come in, but even before those guys, I think that you look at the fact that on paper this is potentially the best team that Lou Lamoriello has iced. Full year Horvat, Pierre Engvall comes in and he's a top six player. Like you and I were worried about, is his contract going to be worth it? So far, it's just year one. It's been fine. Like
Yeah.
he's been playing
Yeah.
well.
My
Um,
my biggest question going into the season was where does Lee go? And he has shut me the hell up. He
he's right.
deserves
He's
to be on that
shredding it right
first.
now.
He deserves to be on the first line. And to skip ahead a little bit, it's kind of irrelevant, but the top six is fine. I'm absolutely not worried about that. Those lines are great. The fourth line has been invisible, and that is fucking okay. I have to admit, I was thinking about
Yeah.
this too, and I didn't write it down. I don't mind that I just simply don't notice them out there. They go out and they do a mostly good job. They're not making mistakes. Fine. Like I honestly don't care. It's really that third line, um, and trying to figure out for the first time, right? You're not talking about necessarily finding that top six guy because again, Lee's contributing. He scored a goal against the Oilers as well. You're finally talking about trying to find that piece, maybe for the third line. Gauthier, he's hurt, but I think I even tweeted from our account yesterday. He's taking so many penalties. He's playing himself out of the lineup. Wallstrom, it looks like draws back in tonight against the Capitals, but for me, that's the missing piece is Parise. And there's little rumors going around. He's skating in Minnesota. Someone tweeted a picture of his stick, which could have been from anywhere, at any time. So it's hard to say, but it's interesting that for the first time we're trying to figure out that third line, which is clicking in a different way. Holmstrom scoring just a gazillion shorthanded goals, which is frankly the only reason why I'm not losing my mind over the penalty kill because that's taking away before last night, going into last night's game against the Oilers, they had 20 power play goals and 20 power play goals against. The only thing that was really saving him was the fact that Holmstrom was scoring shorthanded every once in a while. That from making that stat absolutely miserable. That however good the power play was, they were just erasing it every single time they took a penalty, and they were. I can't think of the word right now. My brain is fuzzy from continuously being sick. They're not disciplined, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So Holmstrom is the saving grace there, and having an incredible season, by the way, with those 5 shorthanded goals.
Right.
Um, what do you think? Is it a matter of just Wallstrom has a shot here. I really want him and he doesn't need to score goals. He really just needs to play solid hockey and not do stupid shit, right? And you have two of in Gauthier and Wallstrom, you have these fucking boneheads that you're trading back and forth. You have one guy in the lineup and he makes a bunch of mistakes. You're like, all right, fuck this guy, put the other guy back in. He goes in, he makes a bunch of mistakes. Like, okay, fuck this guy, put the other guy back in. And it's a little bit of a revolving door there. Um, and you need someone to stick. You need someone
Right.
responsible like Zach Parise to come in. The PK desperately needs him. Um, And for the love of God, if Lambert can just not play Cizikas and Clutterbuck in the first pair every single time, that's clearly not working. Try anything. Change up anything on the penalty kill to make that work because it's infuriating. What do you think about the third line? Is that really the thing that could adding some penalty kill help? And it could be Parise. It could be something else. I'm not sure. It sure as hell isn't go Jared Wallstrom. To be perfectly honest with you,
Right.
um,
Well,
is is
my
it
my
finding that
theory
piece?
my theory is why as well as he's playing right now, why don't they go out and get a top 6 scorer and move Anders Lee down to the third line? Because that was the plan all along. He's hot right now, but is that going to remain?
I mean, I think you ride it until it's not,
Right.
and you
But
make the
that means
decision
you
on what
have
it is based on right now. I think is what you're thinking about the future. Come
I don't think you can make
January,
that
but
you can't really make that decision right now without thinking about the future because the fact of the matter is that you have to really take into consideration what Anders Lee is doing right now. Is he
that's
this
fair.
player for the whole season?
I mean, he scored
Because we've
25
seen
last year. He can do it. Like
yes, no, I
he's not.
agree. I agree. But the thing is, he's getting older, right? Other side of 30. Um, he's scoring on the power play. There's no reason why he can't play on the power play. But they
He's got
need
8
I
goals
think
already in 31 games. Like
I know.
it's
So let's prorate that, right? Uh
God. Simon Holstrom has 10 goals. That is insane. He has the same amount of goals. Save Barzal's a 20 more assists than him, but um, he had the same amount of goals as Barzal. That's
so
crazy.
Anders Lee's on a 21 goal pace. Go out and get listen. This team has never gone out and gotten the score. They don't need a defenseman. Romanov and Dobson are killing it. Pellick and Pullock are going to come back. Riley's playing well. Bortuzzo's just fine. Like they are solidified on the blue line, and they're showing that through the adversity currently. The goaltending is not going to change. Go get a top
It's got to
six.
get better, but yeah,
Go get a
it's not going
top
to
six
change.
scorer. Go get a top six scorer. Like
I
and
don't know
look,
how you do it. I think
if
that like the
Parise
math,
comes back, well, why not? The deadline cap space right now is at $3 million. It's only going to continue to grow.
it's possible. I'm seeing this as it works, and I understand. I think it's a good point that you have to think about the future, and I don't think as I say, like evaluate it when it gets closer to see if Lee is continuing to do this. Frankly, you need Lee to just do what he's doing. You have
Here's a
two other guys
suggestion.
that you have two guys that are just scoring a million goals. It doesn't matter.
Here's a suggestion. Call me crazy. I don't really know. Do you figure out a way to take care of both needs? A penalty killer, but also a top six forward. Pick up the phone and call Calgary. What's your price on Elias Lindholm, former 40 goal scorer, who's also a Selke nominee year in and year out?
He might want an extension, and the
Not in
Islanders
Calgary.
not in Calgary, but he may want an extension on the Islanders. And frankly, I he's on the wrong. He's over 30. Um, I don't know that if I'm the Islanders, you want to make that move
How about this
because
one?
you're going to give up some stuff.
You know how Lou loves his former Devils. Just scored a hat trick the other night. Adam Henrique.
You know what? It's funny. I saw the video of him scoring a hat trick, and I thought years ago I wanted him and Couturier. For a long time, I thought they were really good fits on the Islanders with Tavares. Now, I'm not I'm not so sure about that. Lindholm
He's on a 30
is
goal pace.
29.
Henrique's on a 30 goal pace in
Is
Anaheim.
he scoring? Is it a lot of multi-goal games though, or is he like consistently scoring goals?
I don't know.
It's kind of like how I think about Austin Matthews. I'm like, dude has a million multi-goal games. Yes, I mean, someone scores 60 goals or however many he's going to 50, 60 goals. It's impressive, but I'm not taking anything away from those players, but I don't know. we have a guy that is going to score 21, 25 goals. Like I don't need 30. Like the extra 5, I'm not worried about that.
Okay, here I
That
go
hasn't
again.
been the difference. No, I mean
Here I
keep
go.
going. That's fine.
No, here I go again. Still on a expiring contract. I know we talked about this last year, but it remains true this year after signing a 1-year deal this summer with Ottawa. Vladimir Tarasenko. Go get Vladimir Tarasenko
Is he
with
playing
a
well?
toiling. I mean, his team sucks. He's got 6 goals and 19 points in 25 games, but he's playing on a shitty team. That's just not clicking.
I don't know. There's a part of me that fix the PK problem. Like get Zach Parise back or a Zach Parise like player. The rest of it is working. You just need some help. Um, you really need Zizekas and Parise instead of Zizekas and Clutterbuck on that PK. A little bit of energy there. Um, but
That's why I'm saying this team needs Elias Lindholm. He does both.
I don't think that that's a bad idea. I think
It doesn't matter if he wants an
the
extension. The team acquiring him is can just rent him if that's the
well, yeah. I mean, the
actual
Islanders could
path
do that.
forward.
Lou has not done that. He signs these guys that he's trading for, and he's
Which
29 years old. And if he wants a 5-year deal, you got to win this year. Then, like you get Lindholm and they win the cup this year. I guess I really don't care. In 4 years from now, I will likely be riding that high, but it's you already have a bunch of those guys,
well,
and
he
then
makes
going
four
in and
point eight
going,
million bucks.
yeah.
He makes 4.8. He's got no trade protection. Um, he's probably gonna want an extension, yeah, but again, when does Lou not do that? Lou does that all the time.
Well, that's my point. He shouldn't do that with Lindholm. He already has a bunch of those 29-year-olds on with 3 to 5 years left. You just I don't think you add to that. And I don't want to fall into the trap of the lazy narrative. The team is old. Um, I think the core of the team isn't, but you can't keep filling around it with guys around the 30 bubble.
Yes,
That
but
to
I think
me
it's
isn't
different.
smart.
I think it's different than adding a let's see. I think it's different than you know getting a JG Pajot. Like we're not talking about acquiring JG Pajot a couple of years ago. We're talking about acquiring Elias Lindholm, who has scored 40 goals. And
Yeah,
he's
but
also
Pajot was still younger and was, as we talked about on the show at that time, there was a black hole at center. You just couldn't find anybody to do it, and he was a perfect fit in that moment. It was a little bit of delayed, and it took him a second to catch up, but he was vital over the 2 runs. So I'm not trying to just argue against it for no reason. I just don't know. Short term, like I said, they win. I guess I don't care, but I think they're still in prove it contender. They're not solidly there. Does Lindholm get them there? Maybe. But you're betting a lot. Again, and you're giving up another I don't know how well he's playing this season, outside of like just the points and if the rest of his underlying stats are good. But is it worth the draft capital? Like you're doing well. How can you do both? How can you not keep giving up first round picks and prospects that you finally had Holmstrom hit after just so long of not having a forward work? I keep a first round pick, man. Like do anything you can to not do that. Unless Lou is sitting there and saying it's a deal he can't pass up or they're going to win the cup this year with this player. I don't know. I don't know that Zach Parise is necessarily that, but I'd rather add somebody like that to the roster that's going to help the PK, which is the thing that needs work, right? The rest of the team is fine. I don't know that you kind of go out of your way, and it's a question mark short term, and it's an even bigger one long term if you give up additional assets and and then I don't know. they're almost out of the woods. Like the cap's going up a bunch. Um, they're almost out of the woods with some contracts. Things look okay. I don't know. I'm not buying it, frankly. Lindholm isn't it. Not this season. Anyway, not at 29 years old.
So if you had you're looking for strictly just a PKer.
Well, that's the space right now that on the third line next to Pajot and Holmstrom that needs to be filled. Like I said, you just have these two jerks going in, messing up and being taken in and out of the lineup, and neither of them seem to want it, which is crazy to me. But
It
both,
is
it's
crazy, but I think I'm gonna stay pretty headstrong on this. Like, it's important to think about the future, and the future is, as well as he's playing right now, I just still don't buy Anders Lee as a first line player.
oh, I
I think he's a middle six guy, and
yeah,
that's where you look. You can make two moves then. Wallstrom or uh, Gauthier are gonna sit out. Fact of the matter is, that's just what it is, right? Um, look, you have to sit Matt Martin out to get a PKer in there, maybe, right? Then you maybe go back to the well in St. Louis, right? You snag Bortuzzo. Let me ask you, what's Sammy Blay and his $1 million look like for you over there? Oh, a fourth round pick. Thank you. We'll take it.
yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking. Like, I think there's just a middle six fit there. Again, I don't. I'm saying that as Anders Lee is playing right now. The other side of the break and into January when it gets closer to the deadline and things either tighten up or loosen up and the Islanders are still in a good position, yes, think about how you can add to the team, but they have to be cooking. Like they have to be really going for me to think, all right, it's give up something. Because
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of prospects you give up at this point.
You're
You've
gonna
given
have
up
to.
everything.
It depends on what kind of sneaky good move Lou could make. Like, let's just say, for instance, Seattle's not playing all that well, and this is just a for instance. You really think that Jordan Eberle is going to cost that much?
God. Does he have and he has what kind of trade protection does he have? I'm actually like I'm
I don't know
intrigued.
that he does. I think he's still on the same contract that he got drafted from, uh, with the Islanders to the
Picked up from
Kraken.
Seattle. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah. He has a minimum. He has a 16 team no trade. So, um,
Islanders are probably not on that list.
that's what I'm saying. They're probably not on that list. So, and what's he doing this year? He's actually filling the net pretty. Oh no, that was last year. This year he's not doing too hot. 3 goals in 29
I mean,
games.
if he was gonna have a resurgence, what's his deal like?
5.5.
Ooh,
Eh,
ooh,
yeah,
how long?
he's a UFA after this.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I
Fine.
mean, look, if he
That's
can
great.
recreate that magic with Barzell, right? Barzell likes to play the left anyway. Eberle is a natural right winger. Now you have Barzell, Horvat, Eberle. Oh, I just got chills a little bit.
Yo, I go for it. Figure it out. I'll drive Wallstrom to the airport. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 186 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
So that's the other thing. If they're doing this, look, Wallstrom's shown nothing to this point, right? A team like
Yeah.
the Kraken should be taking a chance on a young first rounder who maybe just needs a change in scenery.
That would
So
suck for the even though Holmstrom's playing well, that would suck. I'd be
the,
so disappointed of that. Just like
so
it's not
that's
working and he's on our roster, and I guess that
yeah.
doesn't do us any good. But man, I'd be
So
so
that
disappointed.
what you just said though has been on my mind, throughout this whole segment. Like we've been talking about what the Islanders, might potentially need. They're going well right now, and it's you don't want to sit here and say like, oh, well, they need more. But the fact of the matter is that there is going to be a time where they do need to add. Right? Doesn't have to be right now, but you do need to start planning for that. And I really do think that the one area of need that they need to is this whole Anders Lee thing. As well as he's playing right now, still not a top line guy. Regardless, I
It's
digress.
working on the power play, and the
It
first
is,
line is buzzing.
but
I
that's different.
frankly, they're
The
getting it done, and I think that's fine.
the the one thing that I've been keeping in the back of my mind with they need changes or whatever is that um Holmstrom is that guy that we've been saying the Islanders need, a prospect who comes out of the woodwork and is all of the sudden a really good player.
And he's doing it on the third line, and that's fine. Does it not
Yeah,
need to be on the
and
first line? Which
doesn't
we
need to
said
be
2 years.
right. He doesn't need to be a first liner. Could he eventually be a second line guy? Probably. I mean, he's only is he 22 yet? He
He
is
could
22.
He could
So,
be a first line guy eventually. I don't think that's out of the question,
right,
but like just he's playing so well in a very specific role that it's
right,
when you're on that when you're a middle six guy, I really think as a third line player, it's not weird that Parise got 20 goals, right? Because it's hard to split up your team and who's playing against your third line? Probably a second line, maybe a third line. It's not your top defensive pair, again, that you're the best team, the other team's best defensive pair. You have a little room out there. You have a little of that ability. It's when you get pushed up the lineup that your competition gets harder. So there are guys that really thrive in that middle. I was one of those players. I thrived in that middle six role. I was able to just kind of figure things out over time.
right.
Um, I'm not saying that I have, like I can't shoot like Holmes from whatever. I was more like a Pajot where it was just making it work. I was an assist guy. You go out there, your middle six, whatever. But Holmstrom is doing well in this role. And I don't want anyone to get too excited. I think it's really important to recognize how he's doing it. Shorthanded, amazing. But not to be like, oh, well, just throw him on the first line. What is he doing? These guys on HP are idiots. Just switch him in the lead. No, he's
Yeah.
doing well in this particular role. Let him do his thing. Um, I understand your point though about getting ready. I don't think that that's completely out of the question. Um, it really would be interesting. I think if they were going to go on a run again and he was be able to be a piece of that, um, that would be amazing. I don't want to give up on Wallstrom. I struggle with that a little bit. Like I know I said I'd drive him to the airport, but um, I got a little ahead of myself. I don't know. I guess you do. If you're not going to give up a first round pick, you got to do something else.
You know what
Um,
though? It's funny because we're talking about who comes off the PK, right? Like
Clutterbuck,
Holmstrom's not. Hol- Okay,
Zizekas and Parise, and then um, Pajot, Holmstrom,
Joe Holmstrom. Yeah.
and then the other one is Nelson and Palmieri. Sometimes I feel like they're
You know
out
what?
there as a third pair. Sometimes
I'm gonna say it. Matthew Barzell should be killing penalties.
I don't hate that because they don't overplay him. They
No, they
occasionally
don't.
will throw him out with. They used to do this more. I haven't seen it
If
as much.
every other penalty kill he was out there, why not? I'm seeing that right now with Jesper Bratt, and he looks like when he's out there, like he has the same elements to his game that Barzell does in really good skating, really good puck handling, strong on the puck. He kills a good 30 seconds by himself just being able to, do that. Like he can recover a puck well in the defensive end, skate it to the other side of the ice, do some bullshit curl, and just kill a solid 15 seconds, and then do it again. After that second recovery, like that, doing that by yourself is not easy to do.
Yeah,
And
I wonder if they're
I could see
scared
Barzell
about
doing that.
I wonder if they're scared about taking away any energy and really taking
Yeah.
away, they're playing well. Like you don't want to add an element or something he has to be responsible for in his game when the rest of it's going so well. Like you don't want it to sacrifice anything. I understand it though. I'll um
Well, tell that
I'll
to
give you
Jesper
the
Bratt, who's got 37 points in 30 games.
yeah, he's Barzell's got a few years on him, no? Not that like 25 and 22 are that different, but um
Yeah, he's 25 and Barzell's what, 26, 27?
oh, okay, they're closer than I thought. I don't know. I mean, I say go if you can go for it, do it. Um it's interesting. To me, to your point actually, try something. The PK is not working. Do
Yeah.
anything. And a lot of good players do both. A lot of star
Yeah.
players are. I'm actually kind of surprised Horvat and Barzell aren't a pair because Horvat
Yeah,
can
I
win
mean, why
faceoffs,
not?
and that surprises me a little bit. And just a quick check in on the game: Islanders are being outshot 8-0, and they've had a power play. They've
Yeah,
also killed off a penalty, um,
they
which
have.
all of everything I just said was surprising. As the Capitals get another odd man rushing, and I don't know if they got the shot on goal. I think they missed it there, but oh no, they counted it. Um, yeah, I do something. I don't know. I wish Pierre Engvall makes sense just because he can cover so much space, but he's just not tough enough. He just like
Yeah,
can't.
I agree with that. He doesn't play with enough grit in order
Yeah, for
to
he has
kill
like an eight
penalties.
pack, but just can't put like. And that I think that was the problem coming into this, right? Like just coming into the Islanders, that was something a knock against him.
Yeah,
But man, does he have the tools for it if he could just
right. Well,
not
that's
be
why I think they
so
have
wimpy?
Brock Nelson out there. I think Brock Nelson, it makes sense
For
because he
sure.
plays with that edge on his game. Uh,
Palms too.
and I was gonna say Palmieri also makes sense. Like he plays with that edge, so that makes sense. It's just having
They
that.
gotta do something.
They do it, and it's just having that positional awareness. Maybe they don't have it as offensive minded forwards, which is understandable. But there's guys out there that are certainly you know easy to plug in and play for cheap. Because look, if it's not Matt Martin or if it's not Cal, like one of the two of Matt Martin or Cal Clutterbuck are going to have to sit if they get two forwards, right? Because they should be getting one to fill out their top six.
Well, Martin
Not,
has already been out, and Fashing's playing well. I don't understand why you would take him
I
out.
forget about Fashing. I really do.
And you know what? Like I said earlier, that's okay. I think being a little invisible. I think he played really well last season, and it was great that he added
Yeah,
something to that third line. It is totally fine that that line is forgettable.
yeah,
They're not
yeah,
the same identity line as they used to be, and fine,
yeah.
be forgettable.
The thing
Just
is,
I don't want to
if
remember
you
that you
think
made a mistake.
if for some reason Zach Parise is going to come back on another league minimum contract, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to do something else. Is it going to be a defenseman? I'd be surprised because
I mean, Riley's
again,
was a sick addition.
sick addition, and through the adversity, they're showing that the defense is fine. It's holding up. There's
Well,
they're not going
yeah,
to change the goaltending.
man, it's
What's
go ahead.
what's left to do? You got to get a forward.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that, and I've heard it, and I'm trying to be a little bit more engaged in Islanders stuff again, but it's a lot of good things about the Islanders D, but then they just crumble late in games, and I'm just trying to put it together, like, which one is it? Are they good
Well,
and they're holding up despite Pellick and Pulak being out and Mayfield and whatever, or or is it not? I mean, we're seeing a lot that it isn't,
right. Well, are
late
they
in
going to do
games.
that with Pellick and Pullock back in the lineup?
I mean, they were doing it. They were there's nothing to now. It'd be interesting. I think, like I said, it's not Aho in the lineup, and it's Riley and maybe Mayfield on that third pair. Dobson, Romanov, Pellick, Pulak, and you can actually put them back together now
Right.
because Dobson and Romanov are playing well together. Um, you sit Aho and Bertuzzo, which is fine. Um, Maybe that turns it around, but there's
Right.
something about like the structure though, and how they're playing and be not able to close out games really outside of the game against the Oilers. So it's interesting. You just have this juxtaposition where you're like, oh, okay, well they are playing really well and they have the ability. They're just often not doing it in very short periods. Whereas the Islanders for a long time would score a bunch of goals in 6 minutes, now they give up a bunch of goals in 6 to 10 minutes because they're leading outside of 10 minutes a game on average, which is a crazy stat.
That
But
is
they're
actually
still
kind of
losing.
crazy.
They've just lost more games than they've won. They've collected points, but they've lost more than they've won. And that's concerning. You have to figure it out. You have to do something. And it's different
God,
in the
it's
playoffs.
crazy. Sorry to interrupt you. It's crazy how delayed the stream is to this game to what's actually happening. A full minute just went by between the notification that Washington scored and Washington actually scoring.
Yeah, it's hard on stream sometimes to stay off Twitter and turn your notifications off, or you'll be disappointed, um, or not surprised when the Islanders score. Um, but yeah, Islanders are down 1-0, being outshot 12-3. Um, Not worried yet. They kind of did this last night too a little bit. The Oilers looked like they were pouring it on pretty good, but I'm not very confident in this Washington team. Frankly, they have been playing better, and I think above their weight, similar to Philly. But I don't know how sustainable it is. So we'll see. They did lose to the Capitals earlier this year, so and that game didn't look great. So hopefully they can turn around. We'll end the podcast before the end of the game, obviously, but um, and we'll finish it. We'll book in it next week and talk about it a little bit. Um, I did want to go through. We went talk about meandering. We went all over the place. A little bit of adventure, just like the Islanders season. I did
You
want to
know
go.
what? It was a good conversation.
It was, and yeah, I think we're trying to do that kind of stuff anyway. But um, I did. We talked a little bit about Holmstrom um, as a saving grace for the PK. Dobson for the Norris. Is that conversation actually happening, or is that just something that is being hashtag Isles by a bunch of fans? And um, like he's killing it. He's being recognized, third star of the week, I believe. Um, Assists per game, like just a crazy point streak. Um, is it realistic? Like, does he have the game against McDavid is pretty legit. I'll give him that for sure. Does he have a round
The
enough game?
the only reason why it's not going to happen is because of the season that Quinn Hughes is putting together.
Even
Otherwise,
even if he's just nominated, like just like
I
Sorokin,
think
right?
it's
When's the
I
last time
think he
someone was
could be.
nominated, for the Norris, for
Right.
the Islanders?
Jeez. I don't even know.
I mean, the last defender that I think was even close at a young age was Berard.
That's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Like I don't
So,
you had Hammerlicks and the Strites, um, maybe more the Strites than anything. And I'm blanking on some of the other defenders, but like I really don't think there was anybody um that really had the offensive firepower that Dobson has since Berard. Certainly not that the team drafted either. That might be the other caveat.
yeah, that's true.
Even if there was somebody, and I mean Nick Leddy. I don't know that he was a Norris candidate, but he put up points for a
No,
while.
he wasn't.
Um,
Look, in terms of is he in the conversation? Why not?
it
Last
was just
year,
crazy because it just popped up out of nowhere like the last week or two.
well, he
Um,
also got really hot.
and that's great. I mean, you gotta. if you're going to win the Norris, you got to get hot at some point. Just how long can you sustain it? But I just thought the
Right. Well, that's the
conversation
question.
was, um, it just seemed to pop up. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't notice it. Someone tell me I'm wrong, but it seemed like it just kind of popped up out of nowhere for me
Um, the fact of the matter is that he had 8 assists last game, but it's not just the points. Like
last week,
he is sorry, you're right. Last week, not last game. That would be crazy. Would
especially because the
entirely be
Islanders only got 3 goals, so it would have been amazing if he got 8 assists.
but
Damn near
no,
impossible.
I mean the thing with Dobson is that look, people were calling for him to be friggin' shot to the moon last season. He still scored 50 points.
Well, he was
Look,
just
he
real
could
shit
just
in his
cure.
own zone.
Yeah, I mean, look, but that's the thing. He's not this year, and
And that,
maybe
a couple plays against McDavid, I think I even tweeted about
yeah,
one of them. I was so impressed.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, look, they don't have the puck in their own end as much anymore, which helps. But the reason why they don't have the puck in their own anymore is because he's doing a good job of making sure it's not there. He's transitioning the puck like a stud. I'm thoroughly impressed with the way he's playing right now. I mean, he's on paper, statistic wise, top 3 defenseman in the league. But like,
Right.
dude, he's because he's playing like one
Yeah. It's
all around. He's playing like an all around two-way defenseman who is a lethal threat offensively and just solidly reliable defensively.
yeah. He's turning
And
into that
that's
for
the
sure.
recipe. If Eric Carlson can score 100 points, which is super impressive, but absolutely suck offensively. There's no reason in my mind why Noah Dobson can't score 70 points this season if he really does. I mean, he's at 32 points in 30 games. I think he's potentially going to be something close to point per game. Maybe he doesn't get it, but he might be close, right? No reason why he can't score 70 points. Let's call it 80 points and be solid defensively and win the Norris. I absolutely could see that happen. Because if the difference is 20 points from Carlson, but he's a better defender, yeah, sign me up. That's a Norris Trophy candidate in my head.
Yeah, it doesn't it certainly helps that it's not just Dobson trying to literally carry the mail. When I've seen Riley on a couple rushes, he's not blazing fast, but he can skate. He can move the puck, and carry it through the neutral zone. I think it's really helpful. Um, Pellick can do that as well. Pulak has that ability. Um, so it's good. There's an interesting mix. I'm definitely excited for them to get healthy, and it'll be very interesting how Lou manages that because there's a lot of players around now. There's Martin is on the IR, Pellick and Pulak, Mayfield. There's just a lot of players around. And they added Riley, they added Bortuzzo. You have Gauthier still and
Dude, I
Wallstrom.
forgot about Scott Mayfield. Like
Yeah, there's
that's where this team's at right now. That Romanov and Dobson are playing so well in my mind that I think about them two. I think about um I think about Riley and Bortuzzo. I think about uh who else
Aho's
am I
back
missing here?
now. And that's
Yeah,
I think that's
like
crazy. Like I don't even know. Like night to night, I almost don't know who's in the lineup. I was surprised last night when Aho showed up. I was like, "What happened?" Oh yeah, Bolduc, right? Like who
yeah,
can who's been yo-yoed a little bit. I think it's been like 10 or 11 transactions, which is crazy. But yeah, it's just been a lot of moves for the Islanders, and it'll be fascinating how Lamoriello figures that out on the other side because I'm not exactly sure.
right.
It's only Bolduc who's waiver exempt, so you're at the risk of losing somebody unless people are staying on IR. Uh,
Well, no, Bolduc's not even waiver exempt anymore.
no, well, whatever whoever was up and they was going back and forth. I thought that was Bolduc,
The only one that's oh, Grant Hutton.
Hutton.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
up a lot,
he's been up and
up and
down.
down a lot.
Um, yeah, it's crazy. I'm not sure how you navigate this. You're bound to lose somebody. Or is
Yeah,
that when you make the trade, right? Like you clear some cap space and a roster space and you just get a pick back to then flip eventually. But I think it's really tough because you've shown that you need all those players.
yeah,
Um there's been a few teams over the years that have kind of dealt with this problem where you just don't have you have a lot of guys on NHL deals and you're bound to lose him. And then at some point, it's like, all right, do we just put him on the waivers and hope cross our fingers, or it's not Ross Johnson, but you can't just cross your fingers and hope no one picks him up. It's almost worth giving them up at least for something. Get a fourth round pick. Um, but yeah, it'll be fascinating unless players are just out um, until after the deadline and into the playoffs, and then they have the pick the litter, so to speak. It'll we'll see what happens there. I do want to talk a little bit about Sorokin. Excuse me, my throat is getting sore by the minute, so I think I'm losing it. But I do want to talk about Sorokin. I put wobbly Sorokin um, in the notes here, and last night he looked good. That first goal, I didn't love that. I thought that was one he definitely wanted back. The only goal against Draisaitl. Um, What I know you said you weren't concerned. I saw Chris Botta tweet a lot of that. I've seen a bunch of people tweet this um, and have this conversation. But when is it time to be concerned? I mean, it's not the wheels are not off, and maybe wobbly is probably a strong term here. But when is it time to be concerned about Sorokin? If this just continues, are you worried about a playoff run?
No, because they have Varlamov.
You
So,
think they would just make that transition?
I mean, if they have to, right? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that that's happened. Look at Marc Andre Fleury back in the day when it happened with Matt Murray. So it happens, but I don't foresee I don't foresee any major issues moving forward. The sample size of Sorokin's work is far larger, successful than unsuccessful, and he's not even playing that bad. I mean, what are his numbers right now?
It's not great, and while you're looking it up, I think what the thing that's concerning to me is last season, he also had a really big workload.
Okay,
Islanders were not playing well defensively, he was getting a ton of
right.
shots. His numbers were great, his record wasn't, and this year it's a little bit different. His record and numbers aren't great, but they're collecting points,
He's still
and
got a 915 save percentage.
yeah,
It's fine,
he's getting
and
a lot of shots per game, though. I think it's the most in the league. I think it's 35 a game.
right. Well, that if that says anything, then they need to play a little bit better in front of him defensively.
I think that's right, and I think that's where my problem is. Like, eventually, it's just not going to work, and they might need to play Varlamov a little bit more. That might
Right.
just be
Well, then
part
if
of part of the answer.
either that or is maybe their their big acquisition, maybe it is a defenseman, right? And at that point, you're talking about, okay, let's say Pellick and Pollock come back, and then they get Mayfield back too. That leaves one open spot between Aho, Bortuzzo, and Riley. I think Bulldog, they are not worried about sending him back to the A. So you have Aho, Bulldog, Bortuzzo, and Riley. Do they go get a defenseman and, I don't know, maybe send one of these guys the other way? Because the thing is, they can get somebody who will help them keep pucks out of the net. Again, you can go back to Calgary and say to them, what's Chris Tanev going to cost, right? You can go to some other teams and find out what maybe some of their defensemen who are on expiring deals are going to cost. So, you have a decision to make there for sure. I'm still on the train of go get a top six forward and have a legitimate first line for the first time in forever. Um, but I also could see a path where they say, okay, we need to keep pucks out of the net, and let's help Sorokin out, who's maybe not completely himself right now. Let him get his confidence back, and go on a run here. I think both scenarios work in its own right. Um,
I wonder if it's a defenseman or if it's how do you adjust? And I think that's my knock still against Lane Lambert is you got to figure something out. Whether that's something on the penalty
right.
kill with your assistant coaches or your 5-on-5 play or late in games or who you're deploying at certain points. Um, he's shown that he's very stubborn. And the forward thing is working, and I get you have to give him a little bit of credit there. It's just focus at certain points in the game. Like, I don't know that it's the players. Clearly, right. no matter what the defensive lineup is game to game, they've continued to do the same thing. That to me is not a personnel problem. I don't know that adding someone different, like Riley's playing really well. They're still doing the same shit. So that to me is not a personnel problem. That's a structure problem. And I've said that all season. It, the good news is it doesn't matter who you put in there. The bad news is it doesn't matter who you put in there. And it's there's something else going on that I don't know. I guess they didn't fire Lambert, and they're in the not even just they're in the thick of a playoff race here, um, at a good point in the year. I don't know. I'm very confused. I don't know what the right answer is, frankly. To me, it's not personnel. It's you got to figure something out. But he's kind of shown that he can't adjust. So I'm not entirely sure. Um, Kind of wrap it up here. I did want to talk about the Islanders. They're like we said, they're playing the Capitals as we speak. They're closing out the first period. Um, the Metro's crazy. They have a lot of divisional opponents. It's really mostly the Capitals and Penguins over the last little bit. They also play the Hurricanes, um, including tonight. That's 5 games. To be successful to kind of close out the calendar year, um, how many points do they need to collect over the next 5 games? So the next 10 available points. What do they need to collect to be successful in your eyes the rest of the season, the rest of this calendar year? Sorry.
You mean throughout December?
Yeah,
So
throughout December, like they play the Penguins on New Year's Eve.
yeah, I mean, look, they can hang with a Carolina team this weekend that's coming up. Like, no reason why they can't, you know, snag 2 points. That's a 4 point game. No reason why you can't make that happen. Actually,
Well, every one of these are, and that's
every
my
game is a
point.
4 point game. Holy crap! All right, so
Especially against the
um,
Caps and the Hurricanes, who are kind of
yeah,
like right on their heels.
I think I said this last week. I don't see a single game. I think I said last week the only game on this schedule that they can't definitively say that we can walk out of there with 2 points was against the Oilers, regardless of their position in the standings. They're a bit of a surge here. They're fighting their way back from the basement that they put themselves in, and they won that game. So look, over the next 5 games, not including tonight's game or
Well,
including tonight.
including I'd say it's 5 games altogether, including tonight, and they're already down
Okay, no reason they shouldn't walk away with 6 points.
out of 10.
Yeah,
Again, these are all
they could walk away with six
4 point
points.
games. I think to me it's 7 8 points. You have to, if you're going to give away any, you have to get something out of it, like lose in overtime or in a shootout or whatever. Um, Obviously,
I
wins in
think.
regulation are great, but like 7 8
Look,
points, I think that's to me that's
if it's
the
six games,
success.
let's just say for instance it was 6 games, all in division. I think you're happy going even 500. Like it's
Maybe
five
I think you're just
games.
in the same
Take six
spot.
of ten.
You're just again, I would say 7 or 8 out of 10 because they're all 4 point games, and it's just so mushed up right now. Everybody's in the same spot, so you don't want to end the month and and start the new year in the same spot as before Christmas if you can help it. And they certainly have the ability to do that over the next 2 weeks. They can create some real separation. And no, I don't really care if they catch the Rangers. I mean, I think it's an interesting story, but whatever. To me, just hold second or third in the division. It's there for the taking. The Devils have a lot of catch up to do. They're more than capable of doing it. More so in my eyes than the Hurricanes, than the Flyers are to hang on, and then the Capitals. So um who knows with the Devils, their goaltending. You'd know a little bit more about that, but yeah, to me, I think you got to pull away here. I think for success, it depends on who you beat, right? I think the Penguins games are a little less important just because they're a little further down the lineup, but everyone's probably playing in the division over the next 2 weeks, so everything is just so important. You're not going to have many of these opportunities to pull away. So I'm setting my bar, I think, a little higher just because of how the layout of the Metro Division looks right now.
It makes sense. It does, but there's so much time here that
Well, like I said, 50 games,
still.
right? There's still 45 games left or 46 games left. It's a lot of games. It's a whole lot of games, but you're gonna wish you had these points banked earlier.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of Barzell's point in the end of last season and in the off season, maybe make the playoffs earlier, like be closer to that as early as possible. And they have an
Yeah.
opportunity. Not like it's not going to happen this week, but it can play a really big role in what moves they can make at the deadline, what other teams are doing if they, if you start pulling away, um, what moves they make, and then you solidify yourself a little bit more. Um, I just think this is a pretty vital stretch here for them. Any any closing thoughts? Of course, we were going to do a short episode and um, just didn't do that. Um,
Never happens.
never happens. It's still pretty early for us, but um, we just keep starting earlier. Um, closing thoughts as the Islanders finish their game out tonight.
Uh, they're down 1-0 after getting outshot 15-6 in the first
Yikes.
period.
Jesus.
Fix those starts. Just fix those starts and, you know, play a little tighter defensively and on the PK. And this team, no reason why they can't do what they've done in recent history. Not just, and I'm not talking about last season. I'm not talking about the last trot season. I'm talking about, going back to the playoffs. Maybe a bit of a different style, but you're starting to see things come together. I think they're starting to really step on those narratives of old and slow. Like you said, the core is still pretty young. Horvat, Barzell, Dobson, and Romanov now. Sorokin. So you know, they're starting to convince me that this is more legit than not legit. Um, Still think they need a piece, but
I
conversation for another day.
well, we already had the conversation. We just need to continue to have it because we don't know what that piece is. Is it on D? Is it a PK on a third liner?
Yeah,
Is it a first liner? Um, jury's out, but it's
yeah,
likely one of those things happens. I don't know how you do two, frankly, just numbers wise, roster size and the dollars and cents. But um, let's end it there. We will do an episode next week. Might be a little bit earlier in the day. We'll figure that out during the week of Christmas. I am planning on going to the Capitals game on the 29th. So come say hi if you see me. Um, you should come too, James. I'll be there. We'll hang out. Get a big Shaq's chicken sandwich.
yeah. If I don't have work that night, I could see if I can make that happen. Actually,
Um, yeah, I'm excited. I try to get to at least one game a year, and I have my high school hockey alumni game the next night, so I'm just in town for a few days there, and figured I'd catch a game while in the town. Um, yeah, let's wrap it up. Please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Not Hockey. Sorry, we're not keeping up everywhere. You can find James' work at New Jersey Hockey Now and the fourth period. And James, bring us home, buddy.
until next time, all. Let's go Islanders.